Yo, what is up, everybody? Popo here, bringing guys a new video, and today I'm going to be redoing my restricted tier list for Regulation G. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, and today we're going to be redoing my Regulation G restricted tier list. We did one last week before I had really any knowledge into the format, so I just wanted to update it and just renew it. There's going to be a lot of changes going into this one. I've played a ton of games, including getting top 100 on Showdown. If you want to see the team that I did so with, make sure you check out the link down in the description, or go look for my Oranguru video. That Pokemon is absolutely insane, and I'll go more about that later this week when I put out a full tier list for the whole format, not just the restricted Pokemon. So look forward to that video as well. But yeah, after playing all those games, I have 2 successful teams. I'm doing really well in this format. I've always been pretty good in restricted formats, hence second place in Wolf Glick's GS Cup back in 2021. Or no, 2020. My apologies. It was almost 2021. And yeah, so I feel like I have a good grasp on what's good and what's not good, and I'm just going to go over here and, yeah, we're just going to redo this list. But some of this stuff is going to stay the same. Like, these 4 are just terrible. Do not use them. They're just not good. I mean, there's just better options. So yeah, this is like base form Cali, and then Kyurem. Like these guys evolve into all like have, I don't want to say evolve into something else, but transform into a different form and just use that different form. They are much better. All right, next we have Lugia. I think Lugia is pretty bad. There's better Calm Mind users, which we'll talk about later on, and there's just a lot more that you can do in that restricted spot. In a 2 restricted format, it is possible that Lugia might be decent, as it can be that super bulky Pokemon next to a really strong attacker. Its typing is pretty meh. But against Calyrex Shadow, it's not very good, though it is so bulky that Calyrex Shadow doesn't really do that much damage into it, even though it is super effective, especially with the nerf to Astral Barrage. So, Lugia, I mean, if you love Lugia, definitely use it, because it's a fun Pokemon to use, and when you do get wins with it, it does feel good, but overall, you're just kind of nerfing yourself, so... Duskwing, same thing. I think it's even worse than Lugia. This Pokemon's not good at all. Just use Lunala. It's just so much better. Next we have Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is actually pretty decent. It's kind of in the middle, lower middle. It's okay. It does output a lot of damage, and with Regenerator you can heal up, but you're just also switching your restricted in and out, kind of. And the best switch in for him is something that's also weak to water, which would be Incineroar, though Rillaboom is also a good switch in. But it's kind of meh, and it doesn't get grassy terrain healing, which is kind of unfortunate. You can do Water Terra with Terra Blast, which is pretty cool. But he gets Brave Bird, Sacred Fire, so 2 really good stab moves. Recover if you want that too. So he can do a couple of things, but like you have to run Clear Amulet, and his attack is okay, so I don't know. He's not very good. Next is Zamazenta. I think Zamazenta is insane. This Pokemon is very, very good. And it gets Wide Guard support, also comes out with the defense boost, and you don't even need to run Iron Defense on this thing for it to do massive amounts of damage with Body Press, because it is stab as well. It's a really good Terra target, and also a Pokemon that doesn't need to Terra, which is really important too, because a lot of the restricteds do need to Terra, and having one that doesn't is extremely, extremely good. So I think Zamazenta is very, very good, very underrated. I see some people rating it really high, but then I see some other people rating it, you know, like C. So, yeah, really, really good. Both of these are not very good. They're just super bulky dragon types, and you could just get that elsewhere. And there's other super bulky dragon types that can also output more damage or do more into the meta. So, Giratina, though I love Giratina, is just not very good. And then we have Palkia Origin Form, also terrible, not a good mon at all. It just, you're using your item where Palkia might want to use a different item, including something like Assault Vest, to make it extremely bulky for, you know, just gaining a little bit more bulk, and just, I don't know, it's just not very good. It's just not very good. We get Zekrom. Don't use Zekrom. He is terrible. He's just worse than Miraidon, and he just gets intimidated. Like, he's literally just worse than Miraidon, so just use Miraidon. Mewtwo. Mewtwo's pretty bad, but I think he might be a D tier just because how much coverage he has. He's able to hit a lot of things. He can Terra into almost any type and have a stab move for it that's better than Terra Blast, so he's pretty okay. But once again, it's one of those ones like Lugia. When you win with this Pokemon, like, it's going to feel really good. And that's what you're just going for, to have some fun with maybe one of your original favorite Pokemon and just, you know, have a good time playing. Next we have Kyurem Black. I think Kyurem Black is actually pretty good. I think he's worse than Ho-Oh, but I think he's pretty good. He just has such a huge attack stat. And then with Clear Amulet, he can't be intimidated. Though his coverage is kind of booty. And he overlaps with like Chen Pao, which is something you probably want to run with him too. So that can be a detriment. Though with Snow Up, he is super bulky as well. But one Will-O-Wisp and it's over for the boy, you know. So next we have Rayquaza. I think Rayquaza is probably B tier. It's in between C and B, I think. He's really good. He does a lot of damage, but I just feel like Dragonite can play the same role and doesn't take that restricted spot. He pairs really well with Chen Pao, and, you know, you can go for Terra Flying Dragon Ascent, which I haven't seen. It's all been Terra Normal, but I'm telling you, that Dragon Ascent, Terra Flying, it does massive amounts of damage. It's crazy how much damage it does, especially with Chen Pao on the board, so... also a good pairing with him is Gouging Fire, so if you are going to use him, maybe you can go for some of that Gouging Fire, kind of like what people are doing with Dragonite now, where they're going Dragonite Chen Pao, but the Dragonite's a little bit different, and they're going for Gouging Fire to get up those howls. You could do the same thing here, so. Kyogre. Now, this is where I put Kyogre in my last video. Not really any knowledge, just the legacy of Kyogre has made me believe that it was going to be flying high. Kyogre's bad. It's really bad. And now some people are saying Kyogre's insane and they're putting Kyogre here. I've lost to one Kyogre team and it wasn't because of Kyogre. It's simple as that. Like, I've used multiple teams with multiple restricteds, and only once have I ever lost this in a matchup where they're like, okay, Calyrex Ice Rider is bad against these teams. Okay, so I have a disadvantage, and I still destroy Kyogres, so maybe Kyogre could surprise me, maybe he'll be here, maybe he'll be here, but honestly, I think it's really bad. I don't think it's a good Pokemon right now. I think Sun is way better, and if you're going to do something, go with Sun. It's just not a strong Pokemon. Everybody's using Wyguard as well, and Kyogre does have some options to get out of that, but its water options to get out of that are pretty much Terra Blast, and in that case, you're staying Water type, and then you're still weak to Incineroar. So, I mean, not Incineroar, my apologies, into Rillaboom. So, it's not great. It's just not great, honestly. I just really don't like it, and like I said, I have yet to lose to one, except for the one, well, I've yet to lose to Kyogre itself. Kyogre was on that team, but it almost immediately died, and then I just had some unfortunate RNG, and, you know, things happen, and whatever, but, yeah, it's not very good. So next we have Base Form Zamazenta. I think this Pokemon's okay. I think in Double Restricted, this will be the choice over regular Zamazenta, because it is faster than something like Fluttermane, and it does a lot of damage as well, and it's super, super bulky, and you can run Assault Vest on it. So it can do a lot, and it does lose the Steel typing and just becomes, I believe it's just Fighting, but it also gets Coaching, and it's the fastest Coach user by far. It's not even close. And that could be a huge advantage to this Pokemon as well. But in Double Restricted, I think this thing is going to be better than regular Zamazenta, only because there's going to be more options to deal with Zamazenta as well. But those are like nitpicking things. All right, Duskmane. I think Duskmane's really good. It's shown in the past that it's really good. It's just pretty bulky, sets up Trick Room. It can do a lot of damage as well. My one thing about this is that it can get intimidated, which is why I like this slightly better. I think Solgaleo not being able to be intimidated. People are like, oh, he's just better Metagross, and Metagross isn't that good. is kind of downplaying him a little bit, because you can get those weakness policies off and you can start doing a ton of damage, especially into stuff like Fluttermane. Oops. And with Fire Terra, now its Flare Blitz also gets a boost, so and it's not weak to fire anymore. It will still be weak to ground, but that's okay for you if you're going for those bulldozes, right? Super fast bulldozes are still going to be super relevant with this thing, so I think it's pretty good. Reshiram. Reshiram's actually a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. We've seen Reshiram has some success in the past in double restricted formats, but I just don't think it's that good because this guy is very good. I think he's probably way up here. Kyurem White is very, very strong, especially with terrestrialization. A lot of them are Terra Fire because now you get stab on those fire moves, and it's a stat is so high that you're just outputting so much damage that your opponent really can't hang on that well. And yeah, it just does so much damage. It just does so much damage. I've yet to face one of these, but theoretically, I think it's up here. I think it's really good. The boost is worth the item on this Dialga because you want to set up Trick Room, and Dialga is just a Pokemon that you want to be super bulky because he's not the bulkiest, and his, you know, what he's weak to is a lot worse than Palkia, so you're gaining a lot more from losing a little bit. Plus 20% is not too bad. It's pretty good. I'm gonna be honest. I think Eternatus is probably low A. I just don't think people are using it right now, and I think it needs to have the proper team. But this thing is super bulky, and it just does a lot into the meta, and it's just a really cool Pokemon. It's just a really cool Pokemon. Of course, its main move doesn't really do anything special anymore, but the same goes with like Zamazenta and Zacian and stuff too. So I mean, you're not really losing too much from that. It's a 100 base dragon move that has no drawbacks, so I think it's pretty good. Also, you can go for a super bulky set. You know, you can go for a toxic like stall set. Like, there's a lot you can do with it. Palkia, I think Palkia is pretty good. I just don't think people are using it because it's kind of boring. But I think Palkia could be pretty good. It can set up Trick Room. Oops, I keep doing that. My mouse is broken. It's like the clicks are very soft now. I need to get a new mouse. So if you see me doing that stuff, it's because I'm just doing this and then it just clicks. But yeah, so I think it's okay. I think Dialga is okay. Not Dialga. I apologize. Palkia is okay. I just don't think it's that great. I think it's worse than Kyogre, but it's just so bulky. It's so bulky and can just output some pretty good damage. And it has some pretty decent moves. So. Next we have Groudon, and a lot of people are like, Groudon up here, you know what I mean? Groudon's he's probably even worse than Kyurem White, to be honest. I don't think he's that good. I mean, his best move can miss a lot, and he's pretty slow, and yeah, he sets up the sun, and you know, but that's just enabling the other Pokemon, which there's better users of, and I just really feel like he's not worth using. I've yet to lose to a Groudon. I've basically two-shot every single Groudon, if not one-shot them, and they've really never knocked out anything but maybe an Incineroar. And they have to run Clear Amulet. People are running Assault Vest as well, but if you're running Assault Vest, you just get knocked out by everything in the whole world. The more popular Groudon is as well, the more popular Walking Wake will most likely be, and Walking Wake just one-shots this thing, which means you have to be Terra Grass Groudon, and Terra Grass Groudon is a little bit dangerous because then you're taking super effective damage from other fire types, which are already hit you for neutral, so there's nothing bad to go into. It's just rough. It's just rough. So I don't like Groudon. I don't think Groudon's very good. I won't use Groudon probably this whole format because I just don't think he's good. Maybe in double restricted he could be good. Double weather might be decent, but no, I don't think he's good. And talking about not good, Zacian. I think Zacian's really bad. They just seem super weak to Incineroar. I know that there's a balanced team people are talking about that's like insane. That's what everybody's saying, but even so, I don't think this Pokemon's very good. I think it's being carried by the rest of the core, and if you threw a different Pokemon in there that could be more beneficial, that it would just do better. But like Incineroar, like Ghost Incineroar just kind of destroys this thing completely. It just can't do anything to it, right? And as soon as it switches out, it loses those boosts. It's 150 base attack, which is really good. Don't get me wrong. It's really, really good, especially with how strong it gets of that Behemoth Blade. But then you just bring back an Incineroar, and you're just back down to being pretty terrible because you can't run any other item. You have to run the sword. So I think Zacian is pretty bad. I think it's pretty bad, and I think that balance team is being carried by the rest of the core rather than being carried. And I think if you threw like Calyrex Shadow on that team or something else, or even, Groudon, you'd probably still be successful with that team. It's not the Zacian that's carrying the team, in my opinion. Next is Lunala. I think Lunala's pretty good. I think Wide Guard's pretty good. It gets Meteor Beam. It can Trick Room. It can do a lot of things. I mean, it's a world champion, so I mean, you can't really discredit that. But single restricted, it's not good. Double restricted, it might be up here, with just how many spread moves there are. It's crazy. But there's one reason why it's kind of down this low. It's because it's super weak to this thing. This thing is just insane, right? Calyrex Shadowrai, I think everybody understands that this Pokemon is extremely strong and probably the strongest statistic-wise than any Pokemon on this list. But it does have 2 4x weaknesses, which does kind of bring it down a little bit. Incineroar does really well into this Pokemon. People are going for the Fairy Terra, which is really good. But it can still be countered by quite a few things. But it's so strong. It just outputs so much damage. Next to Indeedee, you can't, use any priority moves like Sucker Punch to kind of deal with it. But I just think there's a couple of just hard counters to it. We're seeing a lot of normal Terra ones too, which just kind of get beat by some things too. So, like, it's undoubtedly S tier because it's so strong, and you have to have a counter to it, and that's why those counters exist. Because if those counters didn't exist, then this thing would just be like up here, right? It'd be SSS tier. But it is definitely S tier. Now, this is my GOAT right here. Got me to top 100. This Pokemon's insane. It's so bulky. It just does so much damage. And getting those attack boosts after you knock something out is just so strong. Pairing it with a Oranguru like I did just makes it so your restricted is attacking twice per turn, which is crazy. It also gets great single target high horsepower, which helps deal with a lot of things. A Flying Terra Wide Guard user kind of shuts this thing down, but other than that, like, it's so strong that it really cannot be stopped. It's so strong. And when they knock that out, you just have something else in the back doing the same work. Next, we have Miraidon. I think Miraidon's pretty bad. I think in double restricted, this Pokemon's going to be good. Zacian's probably here, maybe end up B tier, but I just don't like Zacian. I just don't think he's good. But yeah, Miraidon, I think Miraidon Kyogre in the future will be very, very good. But right now, it just gets countered by Rillaboom way too hard. He can't hit Rillaboom for any significant damage besides Overheat. But other than that, it's like, you use Overheat, then you're -2, and then you got to switch. You have to switch to get your terrain back up as well. You lose your boost when Rillaboom does come in. So there's like a lot of detriment to how he plays. And I just think that really lends itself to him being a pretty meh Pokemon at the moment. Yeah, so there's some cool things you could do with them, like with some Terra Ground Pokemon, or some Metal Sound or Acid Spray or something like that on the other Pokemon, and then Discharge, Parabolic Charge, something like that could be really good too. A Lightning Rod user with Discharge, stuff like that is pretty cool, but overall, it's just not very, very good. I just think double restricted, I think this Pokemon is insane. Its damage output is crazy, but yeah. And the last Pokemon is Koraidon, which isn't true because there's one more. Koraidon's S tier. This Pokemon is amazing, and it's just not being used right now. People are throwing Groudon. Take out your Groudons and throw Koraidon in there, and you're just gonna be like playing better. Like, it's just better. It's just better. It has a 100 base fighting move that just one-shots Incineroar. Like, just out the get-go. like Incineroar just passes away. And then everybody's like, well, Flutter Mane. Well, just Terra Fire, and it's over. And he's just so good. He outputs so much damage, especially if the sun is up, because he does get that fake photosynthesis boost. And yeah, and his attack does 33% more damage if it's super effective. Same with Miraidon's. That's why his attack is also extremely strong. But he also gets Flare Blitz, which with the sun is huge damage. It actually does more damage than a neutral collision course. So you usually go for Flare Blitz, especially if you Fire Terra. If you do some of the damage calcs, it's crazy how much damage this does, even on a resisted attack. So, like, 100% use this Pokemon. Like, it is so good. Change out your Groudon, please. Please. Groudon's a thing of the past, okay? We get it. Groudon helped you reach, your, top 8 regionals back in 2016, 2019. I get it. It's cool. He's outdated. His move's outdated. They needed to buff Precipice Blades, and they didn't. So, now he's left behind. Koraidon is just better. And next we have Galapagos, which I actually accidentally left out on my last list because I didn't make this list and they didn't add him in. This Pokemon is the highest of A tier, closest to the S tier. This Pokemon is very, very, very good, but really, really, really hard to use. So you got to build a team around this Pokemon rather than having a team that helps complement it. You need a team that's built around this Pokemon specifically. And there's a lot of things that can counter this Pokemon, so you got to make sure that you have counters for those counters. So you got to be on top of your game. When he terrestrializes, he gets rid of the sun, he gets rid of the terrains, everything like that. So you can use him in some really cool situations, especially against like Shadow Rex, where you can just go for like a Sucker Punch and terrestrialize this thing and just knock this out while Psychic Terrain's up. So you can do some really, really cool things like that your opponent might not be expecting you to do, and just take advantage of them. So also, it can't be hit by Calyrex Shadow with the Astral Barrage, and when he's not terrestrialized, he takes not very effective damage from the attacks coming in to hit him. So that's a really cool ability and something that you can really take advantage of against a lot of fighting types, or really, really strong single attack Pokemon, like something like that Koraidon going with the collision course is now not very effective, despite it being super strong. Just be aware when you do terrestrialize, you do lose that ability and you will take full damage, and there's a lot of things that can one-shot you, even though you have 160 base HP. And yeah, so it's a really, really strong Pokemon, but it's very unique in the way it plays, and you gotta just make sure you do have that team built around it. Unlike a lot of these other Pokemon where, you can have a team that takes advantage of it, but not built around it. So, but that is my list. Of course, none of these are in there. If they were, this is S tier. This is probably the best Pokemon in it. This is probably number 2, to be honest. But unfortunately, they are not in the game. And the reason for that is because their Aura Boost also boosts up their attacks. Then you can go into Terra of their type, and then also you can have like Choice Specs or Choice Band or whatever you want, or you got a Geomancy. And these things will just do massive, massive amounts of damage. So that's why those are so strong. But unfortunately not in the game. So fortunately, unfortunately, I guess it depends who you are. But anyways, guys, that is my tier list, my updated tier list. If you don't agree with it, let me know why. Let me know what you're thinking, because I want to see what you guys are thinking. This is after me playing. I've played about 100 games. I've played about 3 different teams. I've used 3 different restricteds. I've had 2 very successful teams. One of which I have not even lost. Me and somebody else using the team have not even lost, and the other one was that top 100 Calyrex Oranguru team. So yeah, I've enjoyed this format. I love these single restricted formats, though everybody else hates it. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, I can't even speak. Make sure you thumbs it up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.